So Genesis Part 1 has been dropped. But is it really what it's meant to be? And is it really free? Let's talk about it. So Genesis Ascended Part 1 is the second to last of the promised maps from the original Ark Survival Evolved that we were promised that we would be receiving with Ark Survival Ascended. And because of that, it has been given the price of free. But is it really? The first biome that you walk into you pop into, appear in, is the ocean biome. And originally, there was a lot more land involved with the ocean biome in Genesis Part 1 in ASE than there is in ASA. The map has been extended significantly to a full-sized ocean biome map, and not just a biome on a full-sized map. The issue that we find ourselves with is it actually playable without the added DLC of Ark Tides of Fortune? Now, for those of us who are on a fixed income, we only create content occasionally. It's not our life. We don't earn huge amounts of money at it. And for those of us who don't create content of any particular at all, they just want to play the game, it might feel like a bit of a swindle. Now, I have asked every content creator that has been live streaming this weekend, I have asked them the same question. Is this map playable without the DLC? And not one of them has answered the question. Not one. And the reason being that I don't think that it actually is. Now, as a rule, I don't play Ark as Ark. I am a builder, okay? And I like to build. And I was very aware that when Genesis came out, I would have to open up the other biomes by completing the missions as we had to do with ASE. We had to complete the missions to be able to open up the entire map. The way that Genesis has been created now, you cannot complete the missions without having the DLC to do so. It's just not possible. Because you need the ships to be able to take on the ships. Now, I asked in chats and people have said to me, oh, but you can use the raft, you can use the motorboat. Well, that's as maybe, but that's a dinghy or a life raft compared to the ships that are coming at you. And in one mission in particular, there's about a dozen ships that are coming towards you that you have to take on, and there is no way that a motorboat with maybe the room for 4 cannons aside would be able to do that, coming up against a ship with 20 cannons on it. Quite apart from which, these things are fast. They're fast. The NPC versions of the ships are really quick, and their turning circle is a lot better than the ones that they give you in the DLC, from what I have seen, because I don't have DLC. Now, I've spent the whole weekend checking out the ocean biome, and I did so in creative mode, which means that, you know, I was safe to do so and I could check it out and it wasn't a problem. And is it a beautiful map? Yes, it is. Is it wonderfully done? Yes, it is. It's wonderful. It's great. but even in creative mode, if you don't complete the missions, you can't open the next biome. And you can't complete the missions without the ships to do so. So how is that fair? And how is that making Gen Part 1 free? Several creators have put out videos saying that the DLC for Tides of Fortune was $15.99, when in reality it's actually £17.75, which is a lot more for some people, because that's a loaf of bread. It might be a meal for them for that day. You know, people expect to play a game that they paid for and be able to play that game in the way it's intended. But it seems to me that the ocean biome for Genesis Part 1 is only supposed to be played if you have the DLC, which means that it's unplayable as the free map. On top of this, on the very same day that both Genesis Ascended Part 1 was released and Tides of Fortune, Wildcard released Dragantopia, the next DLC. But again, it's not playable because they only give you the first dragon. And the second dragon won't be coming out for a month or two. And the map that is supposed to come with it isn't coming out until December, which means, in wildcard terms, December next year. Or maybe July, if we're lucky. And for the privilege of playing with one new dragon and maybe a couple of other bits and pieces, you get to pay the premium price of £26.75 at the time of recording this. That seems a bit pointless to me, to release one DLC at £17.75 to play a free map when they expect you to also buy the new DLC of Dragantopia for nearly 30 quid, which is what some families are spending to feed their entire family for a week, at the same time as releasing the other one. So not only is it not all released all at once, which it should be because it's a DLC, not a mod, it's a lot of money for something that you're not going to see the benefit of for several months, probably up to a year. Because that's Ark being Ark, right? Now I'm expecting, as I have had before on videos where I have called out the creators and etc., Snail Games and Wildcard, for not living up to their promises with Ark Survival Ascended, for people who are not only on a fixed income, but not living up to their promises at the beginning when we first bought ASA. And when we first bought ASA, it was $40. It was a lot of money. But you had to have a specific computer to play it on, and specific, bits on that computer to be able to do that, which meant that you were looking at a £3,000 computer to be able to play it in the first place. For me, I had just upgraded, so I was able to play it, and that wasn't a problem. However, for Tanny, whose computer is only 3 years older than mine, this was a major issue, because he can't play ASA. Because his computer doesn't have the stats required to be able to play it, or the stats they required at the beginning when it was first released, which has left me playing a game that we used to play together, playing it alone and having to play it my way, because I am a disabled person, I am on a fixed income, and my hands don't always work the way that I would like them to. Now, we were under the impression that ASA was a testing ground for Ark 2 and how they were going to put together Ark 2. And that was fine. And we all understood that right at the beginning. And we were expecting changes to the mods and the DLCs that were coming through from Ark Survival Evolved to Ark Survival Ascended to be changed somewhat. And we all understood that to be fine. However, a lot of work, and I mean a lot of work, has gone into new DLC packs and new mods that weren't expected, that is more about creating income than it is about giving people who paid the money for the game in the first place to have what they paid for. And it's taken several years to get it to the point where we're on the last 2 maps. So around 5 years later, and we're only just getting the last 2 maps that are being brought over from Ark Survival Evolved. And in Gen 1, the other biomes aren't available yet. It's only the ocean biome at this point, unless you find the other islands. But the missions to be able to open up the other biomes are just not playable unless you have that DLC. And to me, that means that Genesis Part 1 is unplayable. It's completely unplayable without the DLC. Sure, I can float around the islands and I can do whatever. And yes, they gave us new creatures and a new ocean biome to explore. But you can't complete the missions unless you have certain things. And those certain things are not available through the DLC of Genesis Part 1. They're only available through the DLC. So not only are they charging us $17.75 to be able to play a free map, but they're also trying to charge us $26.75 for a mod or a DLC pack that isn't even completed yet. And that's where I have an issue. Now, my day job, I work with people in poverty. I work with people on fixed incomes, and I help them and teach them the skills they need to be more self-reliant. It's my job. And some of the stories that I hear from people would break your heart. And I know that many gamers who are content creators don't understand that because they don't have to. And that's okay. The problem is, if all you have is that bit of money to go towards the one thing that you enjoy, and they keep turning up the cost over and over again, it's one more kick in the gut for people who can't afford to do it. And it's making gaming premium to a point where it's classing people out of the one thing that brings them a little bit of joy in their life. It's bad enough that PlayStation have just announced that they're not going to be creating actual game discs anymore, that everything's going to be digital, so you don't own the games that you pay for when you have a console, that it all has to come on digital, and they can take the games away whenever they feel like it or lock you out of your account. So when we do have games, and Steam is just the same as is any other game when it comes to Ark, it's all digital. no, we don't own it. And yes, it can be taken away at any moment. And yes, they can ruin our games, as they did with ASE, just by putting in the wrong thing, as they did with that DLC that shall not be named. Because I haven't been able to play ASE since, because it really screwed my game up. I mean, I might try it. Apparently it's fixed. I don't know. But the point is this. If you promise people something, you should be able to follow through. Otherwise, it's false advertising. And it's using marketing to your advantage without thinking about the people who are actually playing. The majority of people who play are not creators. They're just people who want to play the game with their friends. And having a free map that you have to play with the DLC that your friends may not be able to afford means that you can no longer play with your friends using that particular map, which is really unfair. And it takes the fun and the community out of gaming. It also leaves a sour taste in people's mouths when you're constantly asking for money. Now, Lost Colony, when it came out, I'm not quite sure how much they're asking for it now, but originally it was £40. Now it is $14.99. But originally it was $40. Then they've made it $29.99 and marked down to $14.99. But again, if you don't have the DLC, you can't play it with your friends. And if you don't have that money and you have to choose whether you're going to buy food for your family or yourself for the week or buy a DLC, that's a lot of money. And in the last 12 months, they've been asking a lot of money. That's £100 just about, just for 3 DLC packs. Now, it's rare that I will have spare money to put into gaming. But when I do, I'm very particular about what I purchase. And right now, all I have done is bought the Fantastic Tames Season 1. Why? Because at the beginning, they said that the Fantastic Beasts were going to be a £5 each. And I said, not a friggin' chance. Not paying $5 for every single new creature that comes out. Then they've brought out the pass, which is £7.49. So that's not so bad. It's a lot different than it was when it first started. And I only found out about that recently. You know? They only changed that fairly recently. But I had a little bit of extra money, and that's what I paid. I did that. And to get that, what you get in that one is the Burrowbuck, the Cerebrax, and the Enigmasaur. So you don't even get the original ones, which they are charging $5 each for. You know? And the other creatures, again, are an issue. For Christmas last year, I bought myself Bob's Tall Tales. Have I used anything in it? Not really. Not really. But it was on offer. It was on offer and it was under a tenner when it first came out. Well, when it was out over Christmas, right? So I bought that then. I didn't buy it when it first came out. Because why would I? For the price they were asking for it. So I didn't. I didn't do it. Because I couldn't. I didn't have that sort of money to do that with, you know. I've also purchased the Castle Decor mod from Aaron, the builder. Aaron. I can't remember his name. Sorry, it's too early in the morning and I'm still kind of waking up. Point is this though, it just feels like Ark Survival Ascended is just grabbing more and more and more and more money and making it less and less and less playable for people who can't afford to get the DLCs or the mod packs. You know? And how is that fair? Because I don't think that's fair. Games are supposed to be there for everybody to enjoy, to everybody get a little bit of joy in their lives, right? To be able to play with their friends, to be able to do the things that we would like to do, to spend time with their friends, have a bit of community, have a laugh, you know, or just chill out and zen a bit and build something amazing. Or go and blow some stuff up when you're feeling like you need to blow some things up. But when it's made impossible for you because money restraints, it just feels like a swindle. And I'm expecting kickback on this video. I really, really am. Because I got it on the last one. Because again, people weren't understanding where I was coming from. They were seeing it where they were coming from as creators. Because they've got the money behind them. They can do all of the things. They can buy the stuff. Well, whoop-de-doo for you. But you know what? Being disabled is the one club everybody can join. And you won't know until you do. And you won't be prepared for it. So when you suddenly go from having X amount to having a fixed income, it's a completely different story. And all of a sudden, you start seeing things the way other people do. Not everybody can afford 700 quid for a new graphics card every time, you know, a boss fight blows theirs up. That's why I don't do boss fights. It's why I don't do the things like the Omega mods or the Docs mods or anything like that. Because if I did, I'd blow my graphics card up. Or I run the risk of it. And I don't have that sort of money. That's the money I have to live on for a month. That's it. That's all I have. And out of that, we still have to pay for food because my partner's money that he earns only just pays our bills. Just pays our bills. And he works full time. So if you are lucky enough to have money that you can go on and throw around 700 quid for a new graphics card or 26 quid for a non-finished DLC or on top of another 20 quid blooming DLC to play a free map, then good for you. But I'm yet to see any creator actually play Genesis Part 1 without it. I would be more impressed with a creator that didn't fall for it and actually played it as it's meant to be played as the map without the DLC. And yet everyone that I have seen is playing it with the DLC. As I said, I don't have the DLC. There'll be a lot of people out there who don't have the DLC because they can't afford it. Just can't afford it. It doesn't mean they're any less worthy to play. It just means they don't have the money to keep pouring into it. And that's okay because they're just as valid players as anybody else. So if you are a creator and you do decide to play Genesis Part 1 with just the map, please do let me know. Put a link in the comments. Or just say, I'm doing it. just put a comment in the thing below if I'm doing it. And start thinking about, maybe everybody else needs to start thinking about the people who are actually buying the game. Because it's only a minority of the people who are playing that are buying the DLCs. And this one feels like it's forced. And I'm in two minds whether to do it or not. And in fact, I probably would have been in a better mind to do it if I didn't feel like I had to do it. So I might put it off for quite some time. The same with Dragontopia. It's not something that I want to get while it's not complete. We don't even have the map to play. We've got a dragon that kind of looks like Toothless. And the new dragon coming out kind of looks like Toothless's girlfriend. I mean, seriously, have you got such little imagination that you have to go there? You know? It's almost like looking at the boss fight in Gen Part 1, and the first thing that came into my head was, oh my god, it's Megatron. Really? Really? Where's the creativity? Where's the imagination? You got to steal other ideas from other things and then call it yours. Change it just enough so it can't be. Really? Really? Maybe you should be putting more work into the stuff that you promised and not the stuff that you're trying to make more money on because you keep running out. I'm going to go. I just had to say my 2 cents. And that's that.